Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Gallagher with Dr. Simperman, and we're here to talk about herbs and with our new series called Herbal Minute. And each month we hope to provide a short insight onto some medicinal herbs that we can use to help us with our journey to better health. So before we get started, I want to say that at the end of our talk tonight, there is a special, and we always try to do that for those of you who take the time to listen and learn. And I think the more you're educated about your health, the better decisions you can make. We want to let you know that next month we'll be speaking about herbs that help with inflammation. Inflammation, as we know, is the silent killer. And in addition to that, we invite you to listen to our radio show on WISR 680 AM. Our next show is April 20th at 11:15 AM. If you're unable to listen, you can always go back online at 680am.com and listen to the show that's pre-recorded. Okay, so
we want to remind you that the information presented in this program is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease, illness, or health condition. The statements presented in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. And as always, you should consult with a licensed healthcare professional before beginning any type of treatment.
So today's presentation is about herbs that help reduce stress and anxiety.
So what is an herb? Well, an herb is a plant or a part of a plant that is valued for its medicinal, savory, or aromatic qualities. Now, these are plants that do not produce a woody bark or persistent tissue. They generally die back at the end of each growing season and then bloom again in the spring. So what are medicinal herbs? Well, medicinal herbs stimulate or modulate some body function. They provide organ support. They help the body to adapt. We call those
adaptogenic herbs. And it is the correct herb, the correct and right dosage, and the quality, medicinal herbs will produce a clinical result. So the importance of herbal quality. So this is really important because herbal medicine is used by 80% of the world's population, and that's about 4 in 10 adults. So herbs are really great helps if we're choosing not to use traditional medicine. And the thing about herbs that we need to know is they do differ from drugs in the fact that drugs and chemicals are pure chemicals, and they're derived from plants, and they're missing some of the interesting qualities of phytonutrients that herbs would have. So that's something that we need to know about too. So when we start to find out the quality of an herb, there are certain ways of extracting. The standardized extracts are not a guarantee of the quality or potency of an herb. And that's usually when they do the chemical extraction, you're going to have a poor quality or very inexpensive products. If you see herbs out on a shelf and they're really inexpensive, then you know that they're probably extracted with chemicals, and you need to do your research on that. We use the MediHerb, and I'm going to get into the general manufacturing practices before we move on to the next slide. So just want to let you know about that. It's important when you're choosing products. The low temperature vacuum oven or a concentrator using raw materials is used to ensure that we have a qualified activity. In other words, whatever the activity of that herb is going to be, whether it's to help you to sleep or help with anxiety or help with depression or help to reduce inflammation, whatever the activity of that herb is supposed to do in your body, the low temperature vacuum oven or concentrator helps to ensure that that is actually active in that herb. Okay, so when we harvest raw materials, it depends on the good raw material harvesting. It's going to cost more money. It's going to mean that we harvest correctly, that maybe the plant wasn't grown with pesticides, the way they dry it and store it. And those are the things that make a big difference in herbal quality. Raw material testing is really important because they fingerprint it. They allow it to know if it is what it is and contains all the different, basically like essential oils that are needed to make that plant have some clinical significance. And they also test for things like heavy metals, radiation, bacteria, and microorganisms, and to ensure that that herb meets a medicinal potency. So what I wanted to also mention too is that one of the reasons why we use the MediHerb herbs in our office is because they follow Australia, Japan, and Europe all follow something called good manufacturing process. And they have a lot of extra work that they do to ensure that that herb is of the potency. Whereas in the US, they only take it through a certain period of that herb's potency, and they don't go any further. And then that means that the herbs that are processed in the US do not follow stricter general manufacturing processes. So that's why we use MediHerb.
So we're going to talk today about some general herbal support for stress and anxiety. And here's a list of the different types of herbs, both straight herbs and herbal blends that we're going to touch on today. So we're going to break those down individually and give you a little bit more information about each one of them. So the first one we're going to start with is ashwagandha. Now we have two types of ashwagandha that we use, and this is one of my favorite herbs. I use this on a daily basis. I use the ashwagandha forte, which is strictly ashwagandha. We also have ashwagandha complex, which we'll talk about in a minute. Now, withania is an Indian Ayurvedic herb. It helps the body to adapt to the changes of everyday life. It's very good for fatigue, physical stress, convalescence. It's especially useful for anxiety and is more calm. It's a calming tonic. So there's clinical evidence that it boosts your DHEA, testosterone, and thyroid hormone. It's known to enhance cognitive performance, helps support adrenal function, helps maintain and support muscle mass. And it's also useful for people with chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia. It's a good tonic for children. And then we have the ashwagandha complex, which is an herbal blend of withania, skullcap, licorice, and Korean ginseng.
So we're going to speak more about the skullcap and the Korean ginseng and some other slides that we have here this evening. I also want to give a contraindication for those of you who have high blood pressure, on high blood pressure medication, have problems with water retention, low potassium levels. If you have a fever or an infection, pregnant or lactating, you would probably do much better with the ashwagandha forte, which is the pure ashwagandha without the licorice root. I think it's also interesting to note that ashwagandha has been used for more than 5,000 years in Hindi, and it means loosely a term strength of 10 horses. So Bacopa is my favorite because it really makes you feel mentally sharp, besides helping you adapt to stress, helping your adrenal gland to adapt to stress, helping your brain. It's a great brain tonic, helps with healthy memory, concentration. It's good for both acute and chronic stress. It helps with endurance when you're feeling somewhat mildly fatigued or weak. And so I use this daily. If I remember, no, that's the joke. I do remember to use it. I don't always use it daily. I use it as needed. And I use the liquid because it's stronger and I make a little tonic out of that. But you can also use the Bacopa complex, which is a blend of the Bacopa, the Sassandra fruit, eleuthero, and rosemary. And we're going to speak further about eleuthero in the next slide and Sassandra later.
So eleuthera is known as Siberian ginseng. It's not really ginseng, but it grows in Southeast Asia. It enhances the body's ability to adapt to temporary and chronic stress, promotes vitality, supports physical and mental endurance, and it's a general stress tonic, very useful.
Yes, and you can use it either in the liquid form, or you can get the tablets. So every person is different. And if you have high blood pressure or problems with your blood sugar or nursing and lactating, then it's very good that you avoid this unless you're using it with the help of a licensed healthcare professional.
So we also have kava, which is another one of these calming herbs. It calms the nerves. It eases the effects of mild tension and stress, supports muscle relaxation, supports general anxiety disorders. It's a native plant of the Pacific Islands.
So kava is really good for chronic stress. It is probably the strongest of all the anti-anxiety herbs, and it has to be used with caution. We don't want people to overuse kava, and it should only be used under the direct supervision of a licensed healthcare provider.
And then we have Nevaton Forte. Now, Nevaton Forte is one of those combination or herbal blends that comes in tablet form. It calms the nerves and helps to restore balance in temporary mood swings. It can ease the effects of temporary stress. Now, it's a combination of skullcap, St. John's wort, schisandra, and saffron. Now, St. John's wort is a mood stabilizer. It helps calm anxiety. It's useful for individuals who are having seasonal stress disorder and or pain. And we also have saffron. Saffron is one of the 14 herbs that are mentioned frequently in the Bible. It's used to adapt to stress and anxiety. Now, interestingly enough, saffron comes from the crocus flower, which is blooming right now in our yard. The only problem, we don't have enough of them to make a pound of saffron because it takes quite a large number of flowers to get
right.
Saffron.
Yeah, so when you look at the crocus flower and you see that really bright goldenrod yellow center, that's your saffron. So they will take that portion and extract it and make the saffron from there, which is quite interesting because you need 75,000 to 125,000 flowers to make 1 pound of saffron. And that we know equals about $5,000 for a pound of saffron. So it's extremely expensive. It is the most expensive spice on the planet, and it has amazing qualities to help with pain and adapt to stress, anxiety. It acts as a mild sedative. So again, we have some contraindications. It's if you're photosensitive, if you're out in the sun a lot, it's probably not good to take a lot of saffron. And remember, these complexes that we have, these fortes and complexes, they're in the correct dosage. It's just you don't want to overdo the dosage that they mention on the bottles.
So here we have another one of my favorite pre-exercise herbs. It's rhodiola and ginseng. This helps to maintain a feeling of well-being when you have temporary stress. It supports your body's natural defenses against stress. It also helps the body to adapt to the changes of everyday life. It supports mental clarity, cognitive function, definitely promotes vitality and stamina. It is adaptogenic and used in Chinese medicine. It helps to fight the effects of stress, reduce high cortisol, and it helps with fat burning. We also have Korean ginseng, which has anti-stress properties as well as anti-fatigue properties, and it helps to calm the body down. Now, another one of my favorites is rhodiola and schisandra. This is my recovery herb. It helps maintain a feeling of general well-being when you experience temporary stress, supports your body's natural defenses against emotional environmental stressors, helps maintain emotional balance, and the schisandra fruit helps to support adrenal gland function, helps ease the effects of everyday tension and stress. And schisandra is used in Chinese medicine to support the adrenal gland by reducing cortisol levels.
And cortisol, remember, is your stress hormone. And sometimes that is where people put on that belly fat. And so that's why rhodiola and schisandra will help to reduce, or help people with fat burning, especially around the middle. So it has an extra added bonus for taking that, and also helps to maintain or helps the body get rid of toxins that you've been exposed to, so environmental stressors. So that's important. What about skullcap? That's another one of my favorite, and I use the liquid skullcap and I mix it with the bacopa, which is pretty amazing as far as calming and brain focus. And so I just really like the skullcap liquid. It supports and calms the nervous system. It helps promote relaxation and sleep. It soothes the body from temporary tension. It's a great nerve tonic for the nervous system. And it's grown in China primarily. It can be native to America, and it was used by the Cherokee tribe. So pretty interesting stuff.
And we also have valerian complex. And now this is a blend of herbs. It's a combination of valerian root and rhizome, passion flower, and jujube seed. Now, valerian root is grown in Asia and North America, and it's restorative to the central nervous system. Now, passion flower is a wildflower native to the Southeast United States, and it is the state flower of Tennessee. Now, jujube seed is found in Asia, and it has uplifting and calming effects on the body. So this valerian complex is very useful in relieving mild tension, promoting relaxation, easing the effects of temporary stress, and it also helps with sleep.
So I like to point out that passion flower increases GABA, which is a neurotransmitter in the brain, and that helps to reduce anxiety. So that's one of the things that they know from studies that they've done with the passion flower. Also, jujube seed can be used to decrease blood pressure. So if you have a high blood pressure, that would help that. So just a little bit of side notes that go along with this valerian complex. Valerian also, MediHerb has a liquid of valerian, so you can have it just as a straight tonic if you would like to. So that's pretty much our webinar for this evening. And of course, we always want to let you know that we want to thank you for attending, pass our information on to family and friends. We will offer 10% off all our herbal products that are mentioned in this webinar on stress and anxiety, and that expires on 4/29/21. You can call our office to place your order, and we thank you very much for attending.